When I was a teenager, I always thought that 27 would be the happiest year of my life. I don't know exactly why that number, because it does hold such a deeper meaning, and so many amazing people sadly lost their lives at that age. But something about that number, I always felt like 27 would be a really good age for me, that something amazing would happen in that year, and my life would be changed for the better, that something amazing and wonderful would happen to me, and that it would just be the best year so far. And I imagine myself as an adult in a beautiful little home with my beautiful own little family, with a stable job, enough money for going out to eat every weekend, and long vacations in the summer on sunny beaches. And fast forward, now that I am an adult, life is so much different than what I imagined it to be when I was younger. I have a mini breakdown every time that I have to swipe my card to pay ungodly amounts of money for an ungodly small amount of groceries. And sometimes when I carry my bananas and my yogurt back to the car, which, probably also needs another refill, most definitely needs another refill. Don't want to think about that until I have to think about it. I stop and I ask myself, is this it? Is this everything? And don't get me wrong, some days or most of the days, I love it. I love my simple life. I love my chores and my routines. And I do try to stop and be grateful for every little thing that I have, because I know in so many ways I am so privileged with everything that I have. But I also let myself feel those feelings when I am a little bit disappointed with my life, because you have to think about them. You can't suppress them, otherwise you'll be even more miserable. Just sometimes those thoughts creep in my head about how different I thought that everything would be, and I do feel a little bit disappointed sometimes, because I thought that there would be just more. Childhood felt like adulthood would be a destination. Once you arrive, things are stable. But instead, adulthood doesn't feel like stability. It's so far away from feeling stable most of the times. It feels more like maintenance. Even when you achieve something, that feeling and that situation doesn't last forever, and you just constantly have to keep going and going, whether that's your career, relationships, or your body. You constantly have to check for, I don't know, your sleep, your posture, your diet, your injuries, which honestly never quite heal. You can never fully break the cycle. The dishes return, the laundry responds, problems you thought were solved just come back in different forms, it feels like most of the time. All this progress just feels less linear than advertised. I have such a hard time stopping and feeling proud of myself for something I achieved, because in my mind I'm already thinking about the next step. So many things you put work into get no applause because they aren't seen as that important, but they make such a huge part of maintaining a simple well-being. It just feels like there's a lot of effort for basically nothing happening, let's just call it that, which, a lot of the times is just actually the goal, nothing happening. When I look back at the last, let's say, 10 years of my life, I know that so much has happened, but I feel like I have achieved so little. And this thought sometimes leaves me a little bit restless, especially at night. There are so many versions of myself that I had to give up in order to survive and get through my days. My dreams had to be minimized because I had to study and then work and then do house chores and then spend time with the people I love, and then being so exhausted that I just collapse in front of the TV, and also having lived through very bad situations and trauma. It just feels like you don't you need all your energy to survive, to push through that. You can't even you can't even focus your energy on creating a better life for yourself because you use all of your energy to just get through. You know, I like to think of a life like a cookie. Yeah, don't hear me out, hear me out. You thought you'd be the juiciest crumble cookie with the best toppings, but instead you're just a little bit of a stale butter cookie, which doesn't have to be bad. Always room for an upgrade. You can always dip them into milk or, make them yummier by adding ice cream or some nice toppings. But one day, after realizing you are not an Olivia Rodrigo beautiful purple star cookie filled with jam and so much sugar, you have the fattest sugar high afterwards. You have to try to be okay with it because you do have your own charm, but then you see that the edges start to crumble and you panic and you wipe them away and you feel a little bit of relief. But then you keep crumbling, and all around your feet is a constant stream of crumbles, and you can't keep on walking because who wants to be constantly reminded of their own crumbling by just simply walking? So you have to sweep and wipe repeatedly every day, even sometimes by the hour or just multiple times a day. But one day you realize that maybe all this crumbling isn't actually that bad. You break a bit, but you take care and clean the mess up, and maybe one day it'll be revealed that there is actually a center of sweet jam and that it was all worth it after all. So maybe what I'm trying to say with this cheesy metaphor is that it all feels so endless. All the work you constantly have to upkeep in order to just feel borderline all right. Life becomes a series of systems you're responsible for understanding, even when no one taught you how they work. You don't feel alive doing this, but everything falls apart if you don't. This all feels very stubborn, choosing to keep tending to a life that will never be finished, to keep repeating what will simply just break again. Childhood felt more like a structured progress. Grades, levels, graduation, it was always clear next steps. So it's safe to say that so many people feel completely lost after they graduate because we've been stuck in a system for so long that told us the directions and who we were. How are we supposed to figure that out suddenly on our own and in a world that feels so endless and ever changing? And of course, social media, as always, plays a huge role in this. It seems like everyone is an investor at 24. Everyone has their first 50K by 25, owning businesses, spending summer in turquoise water, enjoying the sweetness of their hard work. And this is something that stings a lot for me. I love travel so much, but I can, as most people, barely afford it. I've been out of the country twice, which I know that's already a huge blessing. And I was on a plane only once before, and a lot of influencers I follow seem to be on holiday constantly, hopping from city to city and country to country. And I compare myself and I feel miserable because I deeply wish I had the freedom and the money and everything to do that, to be constantly moving and constantly having the means to travel. But once again, obviously we can't compare ourselves to people on the internet. I know, same old tale. We all praise it, but who really sticks to the sentiment? Does anybody have the mental strength to do that? So every time I feel all of these feelings and I sit with them, I ask myself, where do I go from here? What do I do with this feeling? It haunts me every day, and every day I have to commit to the fact that my life is something I commit to. There are so many obstacles thrown at us every day, and one thing which helps me is intention. Intentionally choosing things which will move you towards contentment, things that nourish your soul and your happiness, however small they might be. We are constantly surrounded by grand gestures, grand experiences, grand lives, but most of the time only on the screen as we watch other people. But when we look around ourselves, I think we'll see that a lot of people are feeling exactly the same way as we are. The scariest thing isn't being average, it's drifting into it unconsciously. If you're aware of it, you're already not asleep. I just don't want my life to be or feel accidental. And maybe that's a good place to start. I have to study, I have to work, I have to pay the bills, I have chores to do, but in between all of those things, I can choose what I focus my energy on. The other day, I had to drive my mom to an appointment, and I promised myself that while I wait, I'll put my phone away and just use the time observing my surroundings and reading my magazine that I brought. And at first, I felt so uncomfortable because, I also have to be on my phone constantly to distract myself from the things that I'm really feeling and to get out of my own body and not feel a single thing that's going on inside of me. Of course, I have to do that just as much as the next person has to do that. But I promise myself while I wait, I will be here and now and live in the moment. And it did feel very uncomfortable, but after 20 minutes or so, I felt a lot calmer. And I was so surprised how my whole day just shifted. In the evening, I felt completely different than how I normally do. And that small, intended gesture changed the outlook of my entire day, honestly. I focus my energy on something that actually feeds me and that I can benefit from. So maybe adulthood isn't about stopping the decay with all the force you got, but deciding what's worth maintaining. Excitement fades, but raising a kid, putting in work for yourself, by yourself, mastering a craft, committing to someone every day, despite relationships being exhausting and difficult a lot of the times, let's be honest. None of it is constantly thrilling, but it's deeply non mediocre. Maybe that's what 27 was supposed to mean. Not the happiest year of my life, not the most successful, not the most impressive. Just a year I understood that life isn't a destination, it's upkeep. And that maintenance doesn't mean failure, it means something is still there. Maybe the dishes coming back isn't proof that nothing changes. Maybe it's proof that I'm still living, that there's still someone here to make a mess, someone here to clean it, someone here to try again tomorrow. I don't think adulthood is becoming the perfect cookie. I think it's about deciding you're worth maintaining, even when you're crumbling a little, especially then. And maybe that's more than I thought that I would be.